Hey guys, it's Summer Rayne from Homestead, Brooklyn, and I'm here at Steve's Leaves to cover some care tips for my favorite genera of all time, the Peperomia. And I know some of you have written in because you have problems with this relatively easy to care for plant in your home. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some solutions so that you could fall in love with these plants as much as I have. So tune in this week to Plant One On Me, Field Trip Edition. Tell us a little bit more about what make Peperomia distinct.
Well, as a group, they tend to have succulent leaves, and some of them you can see have a thicker leaf than others. This is a much thinner leaf, so this is a more succulent variety that has more water stored in there, so it can go longer between waterings, and it's more forgiving of lack of water. But all of them do not require a lot of water. Let the soil surface dry, and then water them thoroughly. They
also have most here, except for one, the Fraseri, has a very interesting inflorescence, right? And some of them are actually blooming here right now.
Right. So you have this spike-like, what I sometimes refer, it's romantically to a rat tail flower, whatever you think that may look like. But yeah, so they do vary though, and some of them have little tiny rat tails, like this one here. Just tiny ones, but really they do share that characteristic, except for this one does have one that's a little more ornamental, but the flowers are rather distinctive.
Right, but they're not really known for their flowers. I think when people think of Peperomia, they really like them for the leaves. Like this watermelon Peperomia is quite popular. I often see it in plant shops. Do you have any kind of general tips on lighting when it comes to Peperomia?
Mostly don't put them in a dark corner. They do like bright light, not full sun outside, but a bright window, and you should be able to grow any of the varieties that way.
And how are they on humidity?
Because they have a thick waxy leaf, they can survive with less humidity, and they do well with more humidity, like in the greenhouse as well. But yes, that's one of the characteristics that makes them a good houseplant, is that they'll take the drier conditions indoors.
And a lot of folks will write in and they'll say, especially with their watermelon Peperomia, you have this kind of like fleshy stalk. And sometimes people will say, hey, my stalks are rotting. And to me that says maybe it's overwatered, or the soil is maybe holding too much water. And, would you say yes to that, or could it be anything else that you would think?
Well, there are probably other things it could be, but chances are it's overwatering. And that's the number one problem that people have, is they can't help themselves. They tend to overwater. That's why I really stress to let the soil surface dry, and to know the difference between what dry soil looks like and wet soil. If it's a peat moss based mixed, then it'll turn a lighter brown as it dries out. And that's just really important. I think that's the most critical thing in being successful with Peperomias.
And to give examples, because I have a lot of these different species in my house, and Steve is generous, I'm going to actually go home with a couple more of these. But I
have about 3 dozen or so, maybe 4 dozen by now.
Which is wonderful. And this parallel Peperomia, I don't even have this actually in a window. I have it under lights. I have it under some lamplight and an LED light, which is more like an LED grow light. And I water this maybe once a week, and it actually is totally fine. It's been really remarkable, and maybe that's less or maybe it's more. It just works for me, whatever the lighting conditions are. And this Fraseri, I actually watered a little bit more, and some of my other succulent types I actually water on the kind of the once a week, but I kind of have it on that like a little bit more. I tend to water a little less than maybe typical, and I find that they do exceptionally well in that situation. But anyway, for anybody who wants to have a nice, easy to care for plant that is perfect for apartment living, especially because they are small and you could always like cut them back, Peperomia is definitely a top choice. And I tell you, you start collecting 1, 2, 3, and you start to get a sense of how easy that they are to care for, and or you get the knack at least caring for. If you've actually killed one, I highly recommend getting a couple more just to kind of try out now that Steve has shared some of his information and insight with us. So thank you so much.
Steve's Leaves has been growing unique varieties of houseplants for over 41 years. You can check out all of his fancy foliage at stevesleaves.com.
And also, if you like these episodes and want to tune in every week, don't forget to subscribe. And you can also follow along on my Instagram at Homestead Brooklyn and on my website at homesteadbrooklyn.com. Bye!